So last week, the Auditor-General Tsakani Maluleke releasing the general report on local government for the 2020-21 financial year. That report painting a dire picture of the state of affairs of municipalities across the country. According to the AG, only 16% out of 257 municipalities received a clean audit. Maluleke is saying that most municipalities in the country are in financial shambles. So this morning we take a look at the metros around the country and whether political instability played a role in the state that they are in. Let's bring in local government expert Dr Tim Maake via our video link this morning. Dr Maake, it's great to have you with us on the program. It's a difficult question to answer, this question of what's at the heart of what's unfolding in so many of our municipalities in terms of what the AG had to say just last week. In your mind, does any singular municipality stand out where political instability may have been at least part of the reason for those audit outcomes last week?
Morning, Michelle, and morning to your viewers. I think, quite frankly, the report of the Auditor-General does confirm that political instability does have a huge contribution in the state of municipalities in the country. And when you look at the metros, it's also not immune from the findings of the Auditor-General in as far as political instability is concerned. You can take a point in case of a municipality such as Mangaung. Whilst they have achieved an unqualified audit opinion, but there are findings that the Auditor-General has identified, and one of those is the issue around political instability. Political instability, Michelle, is very crucial for setting the tone at the top. And it comes as no surprise that where you have got a lot of political instability, what follows is that there would be indecisiveness in terms of upholding the principles of good governance, including the recruitment and selection of competent staff, particularly at the top level. So that in itself has got a huge contribution towards the reflection of the audit outcome of some of those big metros.
Yeah, so you're outlining the Free State there as home to some of the worst performing municipalities in the country. In fact, KwaZulu-Natal also stands out. Apparently, according to a report in terms of the worst-run local municipalities in the country, KZN, home to 22 of them. The report I have in front of me here lists 43 of the worst-run municipalities, but the vast majority of them coming from KZN.
It shouldn't come as a surprise, Michelle, primarily because we all know that there has been a lot of political instability within the province of KwaZulu-Natal. At some point, there has also been some killings that took place in that part of the province. And that will send some shocking waves to those who might want to uphold the principle of good governance. So it is not surprising that the large number of municipalities in KZN require some serious and urgent attention. And that should start at ensuring that there is a political environment conducive for all to be able to execute and perform their responsibilities without any fear or doubt.
Yeah. I mean, infighting in councils, because what it comes down to is that the necessary decisions that also need to be made in these councils, it comes down to infighting, political squabbles, the council not meeting as regulated, committees of council not meeting, council not taking decisions. So it comes down to the day-to-day running of these councils not taking place because of infighting, at least as a part of the explanation. Dr. Maake.
You're quite right, Michelle. If you look at the Municipal Finance Management Act as an example, it requires a budget to be approved by the majority of the members. And if you're going to try and want to secure a budget that is credible in an environment that is highly contaminated with infighting, certainly some of the aspects will be overlooked, or there's going to be a situation whereby it gets pushed for the sake of just having a budget approved. But if you were to look at an environment where there will be unity and cohesion amongst the political representatives in council, they will be able to speak with one voice so that they are able to say, this is not right and we are not going to compromise because it is our integrity as the public representatives that is going to be on scrutiny. Now, that will also set the tone going down to the administration. But as long as there's no political stability, the budget gets affected, the processing of critical reports also gets affected, and certain decisions are not taken on time or they are not taken at all. That is the reason why in some of the findings that the Auditor-General raised, he would either say in certain questions that they've raised there has been no response or there has been slow response. And that is an indication of an environment wherein there is no stability.
Yeah. The Eastern Cape is another province that stands out as home to some of the worst-run municipalities in the country. Several issues that came out of the AG's report last week, Dr. Maake. One of them includes the bloated expenditure on the issue of consultants, and that was a blanket comment by the AG, but particular to some municipalities, and this issue of consequence management. How does that fall into some of the worst-run municipalities in the country, where it does appear that we have the same issues coming up year after year after year?
Let's start with the issue around the use of consultants, Michelle. I think first and foremost, we need to accept the fact that there are certain instances you are going to need, some special skills, the expertise. But it's not supposed to be in all areas of the administration where you have got the use of consultants. And where you can be able to detect that there is an overusage of consultants, you look at the cost that has been incurred. Let's take, for an example, the city of Tshwane. Their expenditure only on the use of consultants, it's over 120 million rands. And when you look at that amount of money spent, that's the amount of money which makes up a budget of one or two of your most rural municipalities. So that is an indication that some of the things that we are using for consultants could be a duplication or a repetition of what we are supposed to be doing within the administration of the municipality. But what causes some of those things is primarily because when we do our recruitment and selections as municipalities, we don't appoint competent and well-qualified people to come in and do their work. At most, we will go for those that will be able to agree with what they are told to do, compromising the quality of the work that must be done. Primarily because those who are well-qualified, Michelle, we should also raise it, they are not able to stay in an environment which is highly contaminated because they've got their professional integrity to protect. If you are a professional, you go into a municipality where you are not allowed the space to apply your knowledge, your skills, and adhere to the code of ethics in terms of your professional credentials, that will make you to say, instead of tainting my integrity, I rather leave, and that leaves a gap wherein we begin to run to consultants to try and do the day-to-day running of the municipality. The second one, on consequence management, Michelle, it shouldn't be surprising because where there is political instability, surely there is no one who would want to raise his hand and make sure that decisive actions are taken for those who are not adhering to the rules of the game in terms of what they've been appointed to do. And that creates an administration which also becomes divided along who are the most influential people. And when I feel like I'm getting into trouble, those are the people that I'll run to for protection. And that creates a problem of the application of consequence management. Consequence management shouldn't be taken as an event. It should be the way we live on a daily basis as and when we go to our work, because we have got policies that govern our conduct and our behavior.
Right.
So those cannot wait for a moment when the Auditor-General had to remind us that you are not applying consequence management. And consequence management, Michelle, we should not look only at the administrative level. We should also look at consequence management at a political level, wherein there are transgressions by some councillors. You do have ethics committees that are chaired by the speakers, which are supposed to be making sure that everyone stays within the lane in terms of performing or executing their responsibilities. But even at that level, there is just a dragging of leg in terms of making sure that there is consequence management.
Well, the other issue, of course, around consequence management is perhaps fear of getting to the bottom of corruption, that it may well be a risk to your own life as an official in that municipality?
Well, when it comes to that aspect, Michelle, you have seen in other national and provincial departments what has happened in terms of the protection of the whistleblowers. And I think as a council, we need to try and improve in that area, because there are those men and women who are prepared to rise to the occasion and say, no, this is wrong, I see this thing happening. But when it comes to what happens to those kind of people after they shall have raised their voices, it's either they lose their jobs or it's either they get eliminated from society. And it becomes something that sends the shocking waves, because everyone wants to keep their job to feed their children. And it's not all who will be able to stand their ground and say, I'd rather lose my job for the sake of seeing things being done the right way. And that's an area that even as society, we need to step in and make sure that we play our role to make sure that those who are prepared to raise their hands, we need to make sure that they are adequately protected and adequately celebrated.
Dr. Tim Maake, let me thank you for your insights this morning. Local government expert there, as we continue to unpack the findings from the Auditor-General's report, which was released last week. That was for the 2020-2021 financial year.